An interception. We don't know so.
What a remarkable drive, man. That's an All-American drive right here.
It's not exactly unwarranted. Like, when you have a guy that's that electric.
The legend himself, the GOAT, Dre Crowell.
Where my warm bottle movement at?
That kills your argument right there. Anything can happen. This game is not over.
What's good, RFL community? You're listening to the RFL Weekly Podcast here, joined along with your boy, currently talking here, Commissioner Smitty, along with Bill and Rob. Glad to have you guys, as always, here with me. What we're going to be doing is going to be recapping, of course, the first round of the playoffs, talk about the wild cards and the games, how we thought, everything, the whole breakdown on that. Then, of course, showing you guys the upcoming matchups, give our predictions on who we think is going to come out on top of those matchups. Then we're going to be talking about new coaches. Well, a coach coming in and a coach dropping out. The mock draft, of course, was just released. We'll be talking and just giving our reactions on that. I'll actually step out of that and leave that up to Bill and Rob so that I don't give away too much of anything. If I feel I can say something, then I will. And the last thing, we'll finish off with the fun facts with Pat. This won't be, I don't think, a long podcast as it usually is, simply because we don't have that many games to recap. And this is a good amount of topics. Depends on how long they stretch out. So we should have open questions at the end of this. And I'm pretty sure you guys got a lot of questions to ask us. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into the wild card round of the playoffs that happened. The first game, NRC West rematch here. Third time these guys met each other this season, and it was a split. This was to even the score, well, get beyond the score and to advance to the divisional round. You can already see here the Snowhawks get it done. They were the favorites, even though they were the lower seed coming in this matchup, to win this game. And Joseph Gilly was just simply on fire. Led this team to a big win after missing last season, 24-18 over the Elks.
This game sort of is exactly what you expect when you have a team that has been in the playoffs before, and I believe this was the Elks' first playoff appearance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I know that there's plenty of players on this team that have not seen the playoffs yet, if the Elks have, but I don't think they have. And yeah, man, Joseph Gidley was the veteran that you want to have behind the center, and I sort of called this last week, and I got a little bit of flack in the comments about it, which is cool. You know, that's why we have opinions, so we can disagree. But I just had a feeling, man, these Snowhawks, they might not have got the division, but I just felt that they were the better team and that the Elks maybe needed a few more pieces yet. And, you know, it showed through. Gidley was amazing. DJ Scott was amazing. Eric Fisher didn't play bad as I thought he would, but, you know, again, just a little more conservative than you would probably like, especially in a game with such magnitude. And, you know, they couldn't get Martin going at all. So Snowhawks pull it out, man. And like I said, I saw this coming. The Snowhawks have been here before. They do what they did, and yeah, big win.
Yeah, I thought this was a decent game. What I did notice was that out of Fisher, you know, I'm not sure, you know, exactly the game plan that coaches went with in this game, but it did show that he was highly conservative in a game like this, and in any other game, I would say like a regular season game. I understand that, you know, they don't want to overexpose the weaknesses of Eric Fisher, and so you go with a conservative game plan because you don't want to take shots down the field against you know, DBs, veteran defensive players and stuff. And you want to just kind of keep him as high efficient passing as possible. And I think that was a downfall of the Elks this time around. I don't think that Eric Fisher was playing aggressive enough. I think he was playing, I guess, I don't know. I want to assume it was, you know, somewhere in between a conservative game plan and a West Coast style offense where he's just going to throw outs and throw slants and throw the short ball a lot. And I think that that's what killed them because we saw, you know, the 3 and outs. We saw them not moving the ball a lot against the Snowhawks. And I think, you know, that's what really, you know, hurt these guys. You know, but interesting enough, it was good to actually see Fisher, you know, toward the end of that game, he started to kind of heat up a little bit, and you know, took him on some drives and stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, it was as Bill pointed out, it was the Snowhawks, you know, just being the better team on that day. So I thought it was a good game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that sentiment there. Just I feel like that was definitely the factor. Coming into this game for the Salt Lake City Elks, it's just not enough aggressiveness from Eric Fisher. And although, you know, good percentage, no turnovers in terms of interceptions or anything like that, I don't think he turned the ball over at all because he don't run. But another win for the Snowhawks here in this book was the defense being able to shut down Darius Martin. 16 carries for just 44 yards. That's huge. That's their offense that really gets them going. So being able to shut him down and keep a back as imposing as him, lid and capped up, that's saying a lot about the Snowhawks defense. We saw them step up big time in week 17 in passing into things, and they step up big time here in the running into things. So this defense, like we talked about coming into this season for the Snowhawks, can be a very dominant unit. This should be a dominant team, and they very well could make their way all the way to a Relo Bowl this season. They've had the talent. It looks like it's all being put together here, and this was still a huge statement win for them. As they'll be going on next week, we'll of course be talking about those matchups, even though we already spoke on them, but we'll just save those for later. I really like what Joseph Gidley did. Very decisive. Just picked apart this Elks defense. The run game was there. Just the entire offense. They didn't look inconsistent at all in that game, and that's key for the Snowhawks. I talked about just them having inconsistencies in multiple podcasts, not only just on the offense, but the defense at times as well. So 2 solid weeks by the defense. The offense, a really solid week here in this first playoff game. And when you got a quarterback like Joseph Gidley leading the charge, it's going to be a tough team to beat. So the Elks just getting the best of them. And although the Elks walked out with the NRC West Division, the Snowhawks able to extend their season longer. Just goes to show you, just an up and down season, but they were able to bounce back and get it done here. Great win for Coach Coach O'Brien, and they'll be going on advancing. Moving on to the next game. Following this one, it was at 8 p.m. Eastern, the London Black Knights versus the Miners. This was the first playoff appearance of the Black Knights since Season 3. As for the Sacramento Miners, who were formerly known as the Conquistadors, I believe they've made the postseason back in Season 4. Didn't make it last season. But this was a very interesting game, one that the Miners, at first, pretty much majority of this game we thought had it in the bag. They were up 3-17 at one point, and the Black Knights pulled a remarkable comeback to win it in OT with a final score of 23-17.
And that veteran presence sort of bites again, and that seems to be a repetitive thing when it comes to the playoffs. But, you could just tell that the Black Knights had, guys like Holden Wolf and Langford Cloud, that tandem, that the veteran, the experience, they didn't get too down on themselves even though, like you said, they were down 17-3, and then they come back and rattle off 20 points straight or whatever it is to close out the game and win it in OT. And that's a real difference between teams that know what it takes and teams that are very good, but maybe still need a little bit of time to grow. And the Black Knights just came in with a good game plan, I think. Yes, they fell down early, but you can see here they didn't allow Damani Manuel to really get off too much, which is huge because I feel like he is the key piece to that offensive going, and Chum Lee really getting in a groove with his receivers. And then they had Langford Cloud on the offensive side of the ball to just pound away the yards they need and get the touchdowns they needed. And at the end, the team that played 4 quarters took the game, really, because if the Miners play all 4, we might not even be talking about the Black Knights advancing at all, and the Miners might have held on. But you got to know sometimes you can't let off, and the Black Knights took advantage of that and stole the win.
Yeah, just to add, at the end of the day, it's just all about executing and scoring touchdowns, and the Black Knights just were able to somehow pull this game out. For some point, and I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the key details, but I just felt like the Miners were in control of this. I remember we saw an interception in that game we were calling, and it looked like the Miners were really, really about to turn it up a little bit on the Black Knights. But again, as you guys have already stated, when you've got that QB there with the experience and just the awareness, and he was just a great team leader. That's the guy you want in the game. And I know sometimes we look at these quarterbacks and we're like, oh, he's old. You know what I mean? But I think that sometimes that he's old really, really works out for a team, especially this deep in the playoffs. And so hats off to Coach Carter. Definitely hats off to the veteran QB Holden Wolf for just getting it done, man. Just a big game, big time win for him.
And, looking back at the previous podcast that we had, I said in this matchup, I believe this was going to come down to the quarterbacks. And of course, there was other determining factors within this. I think Langford Cloud was another extra factor that really helped the Black Knights get back into this. I remember you during the game talking about, who your MVP of this game was, Rob, saying it was Langford Cloud, which, was a big factor, had his 2 rushing touchdowns. And I was just like, Holden Wolf felt like he was the MVP. Both of those guys were the MVP. And then, you kind of take the credit away from the defense of what they were able to do with Damani Manuel, as Bill brought up. But I just think that the Black Knights, just even though it was a rough 4 quarters, 3 quarters, they just never gave up hope, and they just kept playing and playing. And once they got that momentum flipped in their favor, they just never let up the gas. And that's when you get in a moment like that against veteran players and situations like that in the RFL, that's when it's extremely hard to stop a unit as well put together as the Black Knights, even though they're old guys. And you can see the top 3 guys statistically on offense here for the Black Knights. All of these guys have been here since season 1 of the RFL. DJ Nance, 7 catches, 92 yards. Langford Cloud with his 2 touchdowns, 84 yards. And of course, Holden Wolf had the 1 touchdown and only the 1 interception. But you look at him passing 55 times in this game, and he completes 38 of those. That's a high percentage there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, over 70. So that's just a tremendous performance by Holden Wolf despite the struggles, almost closed in the 400 yards through the air. And I said it, I said it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, as I was saying, and that's what it came down to ultimately at the end of the game. Just Holden Wolf being able to dot up this defense. After a while, that stuff's going to add up. And you're going to have to respond. The inconsistencies of Chumlee still had himself a solid game. Didn't throw any touchdown passes and threw an interception and all, but he still had himself a solid game. But it was those inconsistencies in which we talked about that was going to be the factor that could really cost him this. And we saw him miss a couple of passes that were there that he should have been able to complete on. Even though it wasn't, I would have to say, a lot that other players could have stepped up and helped this team to try to get more points and take control. It still was a factor in the game that stopped them from going down the field and scoring points. So all I can say is a great job of the Black Knights playing all 4 quarters, actually all 5 quarters. First drive in overtime, they win the coin toss. That was a game right there. Holden Wolf just dotting them up the whole way through, and the Miners defense just couldn't do anything about it. That's just an excellent job by a veteran quarterback to seal this game. So congrats to Coach Carter and the Black Knights for advancing on, and still congrats to Coach Dunn for having a remarkable season for the Sacramento Miners in their first time being in the league as under that name in the team, in the league, excuse me. Moving on to the next games. This started out on Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern. It was the Brooklyn Barons making their first RFL playoff appearance against the Steamers, who made their first RFL playoff appearance last season. And we already knew what the outcome was. These guys fell short to the Oklahoma City Lancers due to an unnecessary juke move by Eric Reese. Eric Reese, ironically, didn't even play in this. He's out for the season, and maybe that's good karma, and I was saying that as a joke in the game. But the Memphis Steamers, the Barons still battled this out, but the Memphis Steamers, they were able to hold on, get this win, get their first playoff win in RFL in franchise history, and the Barons falling under the same fate as the Steamers, just not being able to win their first final score, 22-17.
This was, I think, one of the most entertaining games to watch, as there just seemed to be, even though the score wasn't the highest most of the game, it was just so many big plays on both sides of the ball. And you saw that spark out of Vandervelde with the Barons that you just didn't see with Brown, and honestly, sometimes you didn't even see with Brinker. The deep balls that he was taking with Amari Manuel were just absolutely crazy. And of course, it's not. Some of that, of course, is it's a little bit of luck. Come on now, jump balls are sometimes lucky like that. But what I'm saying is, it was just an exciting game to watch, and both of these teams were ready for it, and. Man, I said it in the stream, and I still believe it, man. That play by William Jackson was the play that put the Steamers over the top, I think. That forced fumble, because I believe the Barons were driving on the drive to potentially take the lead or maybe extend the lead. I'm not 100% sure what the score was at that time. I just remember sitting like, man, if the Steamers get out of this game, that is the play. That is the reason why. And sure enough, man, they win by less than a touchdown, and you got to think that play had a huge effect on that.
Yeah, at that time the score was 17-20. And they were
Yeah.
driving down the field. So yeah, that was a huge play.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying about that. I do think, however, that there was some play out of Miles Karrigan that really kind of bodied these Barons. And I know it's not. I know he had the big run and everything. You guys, the spin move, I think it was, and it was just nuts just seeing him just kind of just like go crazy. We haven't seen that. I don't think we've seen that in a long time. And so I thought that that was a good. That was definitely good for the Steamers, obviously. And at the same time, the play from Romeo Jackson, everywhere. Just in that game, in double coverage, triple coverage, whatever you want to say. So just a really overall, I thought that the Steamers showed the caliber of team that they could be, in the postseason. And it seemed to me like this team is right back where it was last season, despite obviously the Eric Reese, back juke or whatever. So a great game. On the other side with the Barons, though, I really like the way the Barons played in this game. And I don't want to make excuses because you got to find guys, you got to put guys on the field, and you got to have depth at all levels. And unfortunately, the Barons fell short again this season with quarterback issues, right? And so, but nonetheless, a much better season for the Barons this season, and a well played game against the Steamers with Peyton Vanderbilt. And it was just a good game overall. I'm pretty sure that Coach Rowland would want more out of his Barons. I get it, but at the same time, it was a really good balanced game. I felt that just came down to just a few moments in the game. So that's my 2 cents.
For my keys to this game was definitely the Steamers defense. Definitely's got to get a shout out for how they played, holding Kenny Still, just to 47 yards. He got the one rushing touchdown, but he really wasn't able to really make any noise other than when they were at the goal line for that touchdown that he got. And outside of that, that was their only offensive touchdown of the game. Of course, we remember the fake off the field goal by Caleb Brown getting to the outside. That was a clutch key moment. Great play call by Coach Woods at the time. And, of course, that touchdown came afterwards to make it close 17-20 at that time. But for the Memphis Steamers, as crazy as, as great as a game as they had, I think it could have even been better. I mean, the pass game was working with Romeo Jackson. J.J. Vaughn actually had more receiving yards on the team, so he had 2 receivers, I believe, over 100 yards here in this game for Reed Wagner. And so the receivers were really on fire during that game. But Miles Karrigan, he did have that 71-yard rushing touchdown, and, of course, 111 total in this game. So you take that away, he still had pretty much 40 yards off 11 carries. It's almost 4 yards per carry on an average, and either way, it's a first down per carry average for Miles Karrigan. And the guy only got the ball a total of 12 times. So that goes to show you how dynamic this offense can really be. It was really a passing offensive attack, and I really like the aggressiveness of the Memphis Steamers. You would think, as the Barons being as great as a secondary as they have been this year, picking teams off. I believe they had the most interceptions as a team than any other RFL team in the league. And Reed Wagner didn't care anything about that. He took his little shots early, got picked off once, but after that, just was still driving down the field, only threw 1 touchdown. It was a low-scoring game and everything, but he was still taking shots down the field and having faith in these receivers who came up with big plays, especially Romeo Jackson. His 1 touchdown was just pretty much a jump ball, able to bag Demore Sparks, and just made a great play on the football. So from looking at it from that aspect, I really feel like the Memphis Steamers just played well on all sides of the ball and kept it consistent. But the Barons definitely fought in this, but no Kenny Steele being in action as usual, I think was the downfall. So you have to credit the Memphis Steamers defense and Peyton Vanderbilt. He did a great job filling in, didn't throw any touchdown passes, but he didn't turn the ball over either in his first game. Played a really good game, man, to throw for over 300 yards still in the first game back. I think was amazing. Amari Manuel, big time plays, only 4 catches. Almost every single one of his catches was just huge. It was a beautiful over the shoulder rainbow throw by Peyton Vanderbilt. That was probably the best pass of the game into just right above the secondary and then almost double coverage. So, Vanderbilt played himself a solid game. And unfortunately for Coach Woods and the Barons, their season comes to an end here as the runner-ups in the NRC North. But still a great season by Coach Woods. Great bounce back for the Steamers and Coach Jones. Can't wait to see what they'll do from here on out if they can continue and advance to the NRC Championship. Of course, we'll get to that when we get to the predictions, but a solid win there for the Memphis Steamers. The following game at 8 p.m. Eastern, we had the San Antonio Dreadnoughts in Houston taking on the Voyagers. I remember coming into this game, I felt like most people would assume, hey, this was going to be a dominant game by the Dreadnoughts. Some felt it could be close, but, I felt like the community was more so in the favor of Coach Frankie J and those Dreadnoughts because as I talked about, at least for myself in podcasts, it felt like this was a team that really did not have many flaws at all ever since the good quarterback play by Copeland to really fill the voids of offense and getting the pass game going with Cam Jones. And that showed up here, but no run game, and it was mainly because they really didn't run the ball either. And you got to give the credit to the Voyagers as they get the win here, 31-21. It was an amazing play by Glenn Hay.
Yep, and that's exactly what I coined last week. I said that Glenn Hay would end up being the factor, and at some point, he's going to end up taking that veteran, that experience he's got, and making some big plays, and that's exactly what he did in this game. I also, want to point out, Copeland, he didn't have a bad game, but he did have 2 turnovers, and in a game like this, in the playoffs, that is as good as, potentially throwing the game away sometimes. And, it's not something you want to see, but it is something that I think, even if we did want to recognize that Copeland was playing very, very well, this is still a guy who's only been on the roster for a handful of games, and he's not their starting quarterback. So, it was expected to some point. I would say he played very well, but like you said, the lack of running, man, that still is really, I'm really boggled. I'm confused by that because. Mm-hmm. You have a guy who, you lose your quarterback. You have Copeland there who, yes, he's been playing well, but you have such a good running back tandem that we've seen all year long, and they just completely abandoned it looked like. And who knows what it could have been if, Gilliam had more touches, if they got any of the guys involved in the ground game more. But at the end of the day, Glenn Hay and these Voyagers, we saw what they could do early on in the season, and even though we don't see it all the time, that they're capable of it, and they showed up a little bit better than what we've seen lately out of them, and they got the win, and it was much deserved.
Yeah, I recognized that once Copeland came on, in the middle part of the season or last part of the season, the performance of Cam Jones really picked up and really kind of took this team to a different ball game. But sort of as you guys have pointed out, obviously the running game, but other than just the running game that was, minimal, it's also the outside screen, which the Dreadnoughts lived off of the entire season. Probably the best screen running football team in the RFL, and they were not successful really with that. And you would notice that when they tried to go outside, it was just getting shut down. Voyagers way too fast on the outside on defense. And they just really did a good job of stopping those money plays, the money balls that they've lived off of. Not sure if that's if that was schemed by Coach Baker. If it was, that's awesome. But the team, I hadn't seen a team at all really not have that work, which just really kind of boggled me a little bit in that game. And at the same time, I was looking at just the play of Copeland, and just something, I don't know, I'm not going to say something wasn't right, but I think that you want to say that if Jones was in the game, was Jones the guy that they needed to use in this game? And we can we don't have to get into all the the politics of that and everything, but I'm just wondering if he would have given them another element of the game rather than just having this pocket passer against this tight defense of the Voyagers, and so yeah, just you never really know, and I'm not going to say I don't respect the decision of Coach Frankie to put Copeland in, but Matt Jones, what he was doing with Matt Jones is also unreal, and I know they kind of decided to go with the hot hand and got away from that. And I just wonder if, if he was able to have Jones in the game, would that have changed maybe possibly the outcome, or just giving them a little bit more of a chance on, a lot of the third downs and stuff like that, so that's all I had.
So for this matchup, and just even in regards to pick up where you were left off with that, I mean, I think that, of course, bringing in Jones would have sacrificed one thing. I think KJ probably wouldn't have been a factor. He was big in this game. I just felt like it was really more so just in which the play calling went for the Dreadnoughts, and even talking about the screen game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they only ran the screen one time in that game, which is a shocker, because just like you said, this team was killing one of the best teams. In my opinion, I think the best screen team this season, and they only ran it once. It got shut down, and they just went away from what was money for them all year, and they did not really run the ball. I mean, it got shut down early, but we already know with the run game, this is an area of offense that you have to stay persistent with and try to at some point get going, so that your team can be a little bit more balanced to catch the defense off guard, so that they're not just sitting there waiting for a pass. I mean, 37 passes doesn't seem like a lot, but also another big thing for the Voyagers. I mean, you look at the run game, not really running the ball a lot. They didn't have a running quarterback, so it was very minimal carries. 37 passes, almost like average game, especially here in the RFL. So he really didn't pass the ball too much, had a good percentage and everything, but that goes to show you that the Houston Voyagers were just taking care of the football and eating up clock as well. And one of the main aspects of this game, which made this offense very difficult to stop for the Dreadnoughts, was the outside game. If you can remember also, Rob, man, we was calling it the entire night. Glenn Hay was just killing on the outsides, on those out routes. He had the stick route, the tight ends. Nacho Cheese, you can see, led the team. 13 receptions in that game. Just could not stop the outbreaking routes whatsoever. And, one of the biggest factors was that this was supposed to be the number 1 pass defense in the league. We were, and I at least for me, I was gassing up. You were saying also in the game, the statistics, they're good, and statistics are all good and all, but, it's a different game. You never know how things going to pan out. And we got a different outcome than we usually saw from the Dreadnoughts. I mean, they just absolutely got picked apart. Glenn Hay was dotting this defense up, and there was nothing they could do about it. In the run game, just like the Dreadnoughts should have done, the Voyagers, they had trouble with, but they stayed persistent with it. You can see the 21 carries for just 52 yards from Terrence Ward, but he managed to get in the end zone. He managed to be a threat, catching the ball out of the backfield, all those factors. And when you add all that up together, as great as this Dreadnoughts defense was, it was just too many areas in which they were getting hit that they just could not sew up and adjust to. So the Houston Voyagers were just able to beat this team down into submission. And the offense, they did good enough, but they did good, but not good enough, because they just couldn't put up the points, and those turnovers were crucial.
Yeah, I also feel too that the Dreadnoughts definitely did not exhibit, like we said, the championship caliber defense, or the number 1, pass defense, in this game. And I think that because the defense wasn't as sharp as it's been, I think that definitely put them at a weakness here with the poor production on offense. At the same, I see guys. I don't. Frankie knows I'm not saying that, he should have went with Jones. I'm not really saying that. This is just from an analyst point of view, right? Like, I'm looking at the fact that, like, at one point, if you've been listening to the podcast, right, Smitty, you called Matt Jones one of the best dual threat. No, did you say the best dual threat quarterback in the early part of this season?
In the early part of the season at that
Yes.
moment, yeah.
Yes, and he was. Do we remember before the injury, guys, what Matt Jones was doing?
Mm-hmm.
Do we remember? Like, he was destroying teams, you know what I mean, without passing, without Cam Jones. And it's like, from an analyst point of view and from a coach point of view, I understand he went down and got injured, and I understand what it means to go with the hot hand, but you gotta think like, man, I don't know, man. Maybe this was the year. I thought this was the year of, like, that dual threat quarterback where either you had it or you didn't. And we can all agree that Matt Jones had it over some of the better veteran dual threat quarterbacks, right? He was really beating teams on his own without Cam Jones. Just him and Demetrius George. So that's why I brought that up, guys. But it's not to question Coach Frankie. It's just to make sure that we're still, being transparent here.
Analyst, said, an analyst point of view, because not everyone's going to, like, you got to have differences in opinions. We're not saying he should, like, everyone, I believe, already understands. We understood why he played Copeland. you know, and we're not bashing them for it, but we're just saying it's just to put that out there, you know, what if Jones had played? You know, that's just an aspect just being thrown out there from Rob, you know, so that's pretty much all it is. You know,
Well,
it's just
that's
a lot
the
of
life
factors.
of that's the life of how it works when if you lose a game. You know, the what shoulda, woulda, couldas is what was when it comes out is after a loss, and that just doesn't matter which team it is. You know, that's just how the cookie crumbles when it comes to sports.
Yeah, and even in my personal opinion, I feel like I think it would have in my personal opinion, I feel like it would have been probably worse with Matt Jones in. Just based off of how the first round went, that
and
quarterbacks
I don't
just
want us
did
to
not
take any
dominate
Oh, sorry,
like they
go
should
ahead.
have. You know, that's all I was saying. But you go ahead.
Yeah, and I just don't want to sit here and act like we're taking anything away from the Voyagers. I think the Voyagers came in with a good game plan and they executed it, and that was really the outcome of the game. But when you look at a team that didn't have the running that the Dreadnoughts did, when they've sort of lived off that for most of the season, that's where it's like, well, maybe if Matt Jones was in, that run game would have been there, because then you have that ability for him to run when the front seven is holding up Javonte Gilliam, you know. So it goes
It's
both
been
ways.
the last thing I want to say. I'm done. I think that Copeland sitting in the pocket was the reason why Okoye was so effective in this game, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
That's a nice take. I like that.
Moving on to the next game, Bills game. Oh, this is the second to last game here. Big game. You know, it was week 2 when these two teams met, and that was a game in which Latavian Worrell got out due to an injury that cost him 8 weeks, and it really put the Explorers in a tough bind. Of course, Bill talked about it multiple times in the podcast. We all talked about it multiple times in the podcast. Tough situation for the Explorers, but finding a way to make it to the postseason, and once again, back here, first round against the Diablos. But just like the Explorers losing Worrell and losing a key player in this matchup this time, it was the Diablos really lost an edge rusher. But when you look at this game, it almost seemed as if that still didn't really matter once this team got clicking. We already knew it was a rain game. Everything looks ugly. We know rain games are going to be sloppy. But once the Explorers got that one drive click and C.J. Robinson made that catch, this team was just simply unstoppable. The defense played lights out the entire game. And they end up dominating the Diablos in this game at home, 30-15.
Yeah, this was a game that we came in and we had two thoughts for the game, and both of them were on the defensive side of the ball. If we can control Axel and if we can limit the amount of big play opportunities for Piku McCullough, then we're going to have some success. And that's exactly, I think, what we did rather well. Griffin Pritchett was a big factor for us, but it seems like you're just going to have to deal with that in the RFL. Tight ends are going to get off if the right plays are getting called, because it's just they're too hard to cover with linebackers. And it was the way the game played out is sort of why you guys always give me a hard time about how hard I am on my team after they don't play well, because I know that they are capable of playing to the way they played in this game. And it speaks a lot to Worrell, who I will admit I was not always the biggest supporter of in previous years, where he came out and you guys saw, man, you guys were calling the game. He threw 2 picks right out the gate, right? I mean, it looked like this was a reload bowl replay pretty much, and he was just going to be slinging it all crazy, and who knows what was going to happen. And actually, this is how the Diablos game played out in week 2. But he settled down, he found his rhythm, and started finding CJ, finding Latavius Austin, finding Courtney Mitchell, Braxton Banjo, and then to top it off, we finally get big production out of the running game. Bradley Atagwe, those stats don't speak for what he did in that game, I don't think. It makes it look like he had a worse game than he did. The plays he made were very big in the moment. They might not translate well to the stat sheet, and then Tommy Bigby, of course, coming in the spelling of Atagwe was huge as well. So, man, it was just a big win for us, especially after the up and down season we had, and I was really happy to be able to, showcase what this team can do when they are clicking, and hopefully we can carry this on to next week.
Man, what I don't think anybody was really expecting the Diablos to, not be, as competitive. Just man, I don't even know the word to say it, because we gotta put respect on the Diablos name at the end of the day, because of what they were able to do this season. I see someone says that the Diablos got exposed in the chat. Like, I don't think the Diablos got exposed, man. I think the Diablos are probably one of the better teams in the RFL right now. A great coach, And I'm not gonna say because Marvin Woolfolk was out that this game was different or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because he already had a beast team before he got Woolfolk. It's that Woolfolk's just overkill. I think that the Explorers were slept on, right? And I think that a lot of people, kind of forgot that the Explorers, are one of the winningest teams in the league. And, obviously in the Cozier era, it was just Thunderbirds and Explorers, and people forget that this is a playoff caliber team now. I will say in the beginning of that game though, Bill, Worwell was looking kind of shady for a second, and I was a little worried, man, because he was just throwing haymakers down the field, and I don't know what it was. I don't know, the turnover. I think it was a turnover, something that your defense did, if I can't remember, and he just came right back out. And after that, it was just lights out, and maybe it's just a case of the any given Sundays or whatever, you know what I mean? And he's had to throw up real quick, you know what I mean? Whatever. But once he got comfortable in the pocket, it was over for the Diablos. I'm not going to use the word exposed for the Diablos, though. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say that we're well in your game plan. It came together. The plays that you guys called, amazing. You know what I mean? Just great plays, and it's just a great game, a great well executed game. And this is not the Diablos that we're used to seeing, right? Because we got to look at the stats here. You guys pointed out the stats, so I'm going to use the stats, right? Yeah. Madison Axel, right? What was he averaging a game, Smitty? How many yards a game up until this point? 175.
No, it had to be over 100. Yeah, it had to be over 100. As a team, it had to be a high number like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this was a case of a bad game, what I'm saying, by the Diablos, and they ran into a really strong Explorers team, man. So great game by the Explorers, and just better luck next time for the Diablos.
I just want to interject here quick, because I see a few comments about how I basically benefited off of the Woolfolk injury, which I'm not saying it didn't affect the team, but I think a lot of guys are forgetting that I was also missing Tyquil Jones against one of the best running teams in the league, and I still managed to play it up. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be salty, but please don't take my game planning away like that to me, man.
And you know what? And I thought about not even seeing Woolfolk, Bill, because I don't think people realize that the Diablos were the number one defense, basically, or just about, when I traded them in week 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you guys remember the Instagram post? Oh my, Smitty on Instagram, Marvin Woolfolk's going to the Diablos. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were still a perennial defense before I gave them Marvin Woolfolk. What are y'all talking about? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hey, we need to put them on the podcast so I can get in the chat and just start talking, man. You know what I mean? All right, I'm done, Smitty. I'm done.
Yeah, just to break down into this game, as soon as the game started, it was terrible for both teams. Terrible play calling. Both teams were pass heavy. I think that put both, as great as these veteran quarterbacks are on both of these teams, put them in a bad spot, just throwing way too much. But the Explorers still kept with it until that huge catch that went for a touchdown with C.J. Robinson, and then they just never looked back from that point. Madison Axel, he was actually doing great. He had 5 carries for 40 yards at one point. And you can see he still got a decent amount of carries. But the issue I felt with the Diablos was they still stayed in that passing mode. You got the leading back in the RFL that you, on average, give about 30 to 35 plus carries a game. You give them half of that here with 17, and you throw the football 43 times with Aaron Pritchett. This was just in rainy conditions at that. This was just not the game in which they should have went with a pass-heavy attack. And maybe, who knows, it was the Explorers that really checked them out of that. But, I mean, you got to establish that run. That's what got you here. And without Madison Axel being that factor, you put everything on the receiving, and people, like you were saying, tend to sleep on the Explorers defense. These guys got one of the best secondary core units in the league when it comes to the outside members. So you take away the top receivers here of the Diablos, and they really have no offense, which they didn't have in this game. So they shut that down. And I said this in the game also, is that, the game started out rough for both, but it was just like the Explorers made such a change and such a flip and got themselves on track so fast and kept it going that the Diablos just could not adjust fast enough. And I think that as the game was going on, they just felt defeated. They weren't making plays. They weren't doing anything. And the Explorers just capitalized off their turnaround and never looked back and just kept beating them down. And when you look at the first half of that gameplay, the defense was a huge reason on why for that. They caused 3 fumbles. There was about 2 or 3 drives for the Diablos where they were about to get themselves back in the game with good movement down the field. And the Explorers defense came up in big moments. One with the fumble that he had on Griffin, on Griffin Pritchett, the tight end, that was in the red zone while they were driving. They had one on Rashad Williams before the first half close, where was it Darius Young? Yeah, Darius Young with the hit stick forced the fumble. That was the second
was on
one.
like a 40-yard play too.
Yeah,
he was wide open over the middle.
Yeah, and so like they were moving, but it was just honestly, it was just so much momentum, and you can tell that the change, and they just couldn't adjust so fast, and they felt defeated because the way in which they were losing the ball was as if they were careless. And then you had the read option. That was the 3rd fumble in the first half from Aaron Pritchett when he should have hit the deck. That was the first fumble of the game, and then it was the Griffin Pritchett, and then it was Williams. So when you look at those turnovers, you had those 3 turnovers that were crucial in the beginning of the game. Explorers were able to just build up all that momentum from the turnovers on defense. Offense was moving down the field, putting up points. Run game was great. Worrell was great. C.J. Robinson couldn't be stopped. At that point, I think the Diablos as a team just threw in the towel. And that's just exactly how it turned out. And they even made it look even worse because they did not go with what got them here with the run game. And I don't feel that coach set up the game plan for them to pass or anything of that nature. It's just how the game turned out, and just wanted to go pass heavy in the situations. Probably that's why I feel like maybe the Explorers checked them out of a lot of things. And, it just didn't look good for these guys. They ended up taking a pretty big beat down here to get eliminated. So it's a great win by you, Bill, and the Explorers. A lot of momentum. Of course, we already know the storyline, looking to get back to that Reload Bowl that you fell short of, last season. And, just a great win here against a really solid team. I already said I didn't expect you guys really to come out on this. So
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so I'll keep it real. I didn't think you guys were going to win. But of course, I'm not always going to be right. And Explorers came up huge on both sides of the ball, man. That was a great turnaround, great win there. And good luck to you next year, Forbes. We already know you're a great coach here in this league. Fantastic first season. And moving on to the final game, it was the Cougars versus the Celtic Tigers rematch, highly anticipated rematch. We already know the storyline from last season. The Celtic Tigers having their best season in franchise history. Drake Crowell going off. I still would say his best season, even better than this year, even though he had another fantastic season. 15-1, top team, number 1 team in the RFL. First game playing in the divisional round. You got the Chicago Cougars, who were coming off a really hot season the season before Coach Robbie, before Coach Roby got there. And, we kind of still didn't feel like, this Celtic Tigers team is still legit and they're too great. We don't think the Cougars are going to be able to pull this off. They beat them earlier that season. Y'all saw the post and everything. And the Cougars were able to best them in a pretty dominant way, just capitalize on every opportunity. And then you got this game right here. They didn't meet each other or play any games since then. So it was just the ultimate storyline leading into this. And what made it so great also is that you had Geno Gannon, who appears to be the future face of the RFL, I assume. I don't see anybody else right now as young that's just like really starting to really get pushed in that spotlight as Drake Crowell is. Like I said, coming to this game, future versus past. 2 great quarterbacks this season going at it. First time they meet each other. In a historical rivalry, I would have to say probably in the postseason. And the Celtic Tigers, to come out and get this win the way they did, the Cougars still put up a fight and everything. And I think the game lived up to the hype, but it was just the ultimate storyline and a fantastic ending. Just has you waiting to see, is this the year for CT? Of course, that's meant to be solved later down the line, but this was a pretty, a great win, convincing win here for the Celtic Tigers. Who've really struggled in the postseason, man, and they get it done over the Cougars here, 37-21.
Yeah, Rob, did you want to start this one out or no? I mean, I don't know if you want to have any talking points you want to get out there ahead of time.
Yeah, man, it's all good. I can jump in there, man. First of all, man, I gotta apologize to Wheelchair Nation, man. You know what I mean? We had the order in. We got all the scrap metal from around the cities, the relocation cities. Everybody sent their scrap, and we had a spray painted a
Gold
gold
chair.
a gold chair from my boy Dre, man. And
The massive
Markel
shoes,
was
huh?
really happy. Yeah, man. Yeah, matching shoes, man. And we ran into Dre Crowell on a pro day, man. And I'm gonna tell you, man, it's one of the hardest quarterbacks to beat in the RFL, whether you like him or not. You know, I hear him they sweaty dreads and all the jokes they got about him and everything. They try to troll Smitty and stuff week after week, man. Excuse me if I'm a little extended, guys, on this one,
Oh
but
no, it's all good.
but I got to keep it real, man. You know, this is the most dangerous quarterback in the RFL, and it's not because of just his legacy and what he's done since season one. It's because you don't even know what you're going to get out of this guy. This is a guy that'll play all 4 quarters. Rarely do you see him ever down in ball games. Rarely do you ever see him just dominated in ball games. And rarely do you see him actually make mistakes. And while I don't even think that this was the best Draco Well we've ever seen in a ball game, I think this was the best management that we've probably seen in a quarterback in a playoff series against what I consider that I felt like, and I think on paper it shows too that the Cougars are slightly have an edge if you're just looking at the depth chart against Celtic Tigers and what he's able to do with his pieces, and he don't have the most high overall guys around him. I mean, other than Worsley and Miniani, there aren't a whole bunch of 90 pluses on this team except him. And he's just such a dangerous quarterback, man. You can't even be mad when you lose against him. And I wasn't mad. I told you, Smitty, if there was any quarterback that I wanted to lose to, it was to Dre Crowell. And y'all know I'm gonna ride that all the way out. So you can't even joke if you want to joke. I lost to the GOAT. I didn't lose to Copeland. I didn't lose to Hay. I didn't lose to Keese. I didn't lose to any of these other quarterbacks. I lost to the greatest quarterback of all time, man, in Dre Crowell. And you know what? This is gonna sound funny, but it felt good. You know what I mean? It felt real good to lose to the GOAT, man. So at the end of the day, you guys know I'm just trying to make you laugh and everything, man. But I was disappointed in my team slightly because I felt we were prepared, but I'm humbled because I knew deep in my heart that the Cougars have some things to do, and this is just a real raw Rob right now, man. Like for real, the Cougars have some things to do on the O-line and on the defense, and I've been finessing a lot of games, man. And it finally caught up to me. Pro Bowl offensive line. You can't penetrate it, no matter how hard you want. That's a Pro Bowl offensive line. Go check them, right? Defense, Pro Bowlers. It's hard to penetrate. You know what I mean? That defense, and the fact that for some reason, Matt Niani just found the open field, man. Like every time I look up, Matt Niani, Barrow. And so it's humbling, but at the same time, I get it. Cougars, we had a great season. Geno Gannon, remarkable season, man. But at the end of the day, we weren't strong enough to beat the Celtic Tigers this year like we were last year. And so I got some work to do in off season, man. So, hey, 9th round, #9th round, man. We coming for you. All right, there we go. I'm done.
And I was just gonna, add to that. Pretty much the same. Reiterate the same thing. Like we know what this Celtic Tigers team has, and what they've had. Pretty much the last 2-3 years, and it's just there's like the old saying is pick your poison. Like who do you try to, and you can't even say stop. It's who do you try to control. Who do you try to limit? And we know Worsley can go off at any time. Dre, it doesn't matter what defensive game plan you come up with, he always finds a way to find the open guy. He's got Matt Niani, who for some reason is just like impossible to stop. I mean, it doesn't matter who you got on him. And then, like Rob said, to top it off, they have an O-line that is pretty much, I mean, you could just take the Pro Bowl offensive lineman and stack it up against the Celtic Tigers offensive lineman, and they'd probably be the same people because I think all of them make it every year.
Yeah.
And it's just a team that they have all the pieces to really make a run. And the biggest question mark has been, can Dre finish? And it feels like this year is different after that game, because this is the first time since I've been in this league that I didn't see Dre basically like carried out on a stretcher after a playoff game if he made it, because he just couldn't win the game. Like it just seemed to never work. This was completely different. It's almost like he knows that this might be his last year, and he's not going to go down without a fight if he's going to get a ring before he decides to hang him up. So it was just a great matchup between two really, really good teams. And again, call me a broken record, but Dre Crowell, being the vet, outplayed Geno Gannon.
And just to break down into this game, one aspect, we talk about Matt Niani and how tough he is to get covered, but I will have to give credit to Keani Jones in that game, because I don't think that Matt Niani made a single catch when he was lined up against him. So that's huge to be able to like really get him off the stat sheet in his area. But it was just the way in which the Celtic Tigers still was able to make plays with other guys and then open that up later on. They just waited on that to be there. And whenever he was matched up against someone else, you already know it's automatic. He's going to get open. He's making plays. And then DJ Burrows stepped up in a huge way. He only had 4 catches, but a lot of big catches in this game. A lot of strikes over the middle in which Drake Crowell was able to hit. And this team stayed persistent with the run game. And I always say every week, every podcast, when we talk about the Celtic Tigers is, when you got the big three guys on offense rolling over 100 yards, they're not going to get beat. Matt Niani, well, he didn't have over 100 yards in this game, but he still found a way to see the end zone twice, led in that category. Just didn't have more yards than TJ Burrow, which is why he made the list here. And then you had Trey Worsley, who was struggling at first in the first half. If I'm not mistaken, at one point it was like 6 carries for 11 yards, and then right a little bit before the first half, and then the second half is really where he exploded, and he finishes with 30 carries for 136 yards and that touchdown. And then, of course, Drake Crowell, he was just on fire the entire game. Just finished the regular season with 4 passing touchdowns, 367 yards, and he comes in here, didn't hit the 300-yard mark, but he was just 2 yards away with 298 against a really good Cougars defense. And that just goes to show you the level of which it's hard to beat this team on the offensive side of the ball, because Drake Crowell is going to find those weaknesses. If you can't shut down or, like Bill said, control one of these guys, then you're not going to be able to beat the Celtic Tigers. And one of the areas I think is the key MVP in this game outside of Dre is the Celtic Tigers defense. The defense, in my opinion, has been one of the spotty areas for the Celtic Tigers that have really made them inconsistent in the playoffs, especially this year. I had my doubts coming into this game that this defense was going to be able to tackle, was giving up big plays and things of that nature, which in a sense they kind of still were, but they were a lot better prepared in this game. They just made plays. It's like a switch turn. As soon as they played this first game against a solid team, you just saw the defensive line starting to get pressure. That's an area they were very inconsistent this year, is generating the pass rush. They were like one of the least teams on defense to get sacks in the first half of the season, and they just got to Geno Gannon 10 sacks in that game. That's a Brady Hudson stat line right there. So to even get that penetration, it says a lot about this defense being on the bottom. And of course, Geno Gannon himself probably calls a good, probably 4 or 5 of those. But still, the fact that he was uneasy in that pocket and didn't get the time to do that, this defense stepped up in a huge way, saw the secondary make a couple of big pass breakups on the great receivers that the Cougars have. So, and more so, other than Drake Crowell, I think he still was a huge factor in this game, but it was really the defense of the Celtic Tigers that made the difference here. The Cougars were able to make some huge plays as well. And like I said, they still fought in this game. The score, kind of looked outlandish towards the end. It was a good little drive and everything also by Geno Gannon to finish the game, at least scoring an offensive touchdown, because they had their first touchdown off a crazy fumble recovery that got picked off for the touchdown. But, Geno Gannon just looked like just an inexperienced quarterback being in a big moment. And that's all it really was. I think the rest of the offense really, played as best they could. But the area also is that the run game of the Cougars, they didn't run the ball much, and the Celtic Tigers kept the run game also at a minimum approach in terms of getting yards and moving down the field. So that's why I feel like the Celtic Tigers defense in this matchup just stepped up in a big way to get them this win. You still got to give that credit to the Cougars. Fantastic season that they had. Great turnaround. Amazing season by Geno Gannon. I can't wait to see what he does in the future. But just, once again, like I said, just a fitting story here in this rematch here as Drake Crowell gets the best there of Geno Gannon and his rematch back with the Cougars. But still going to give a shout out to you, Rob, man. Fantastic season and bounce around. Can't wait to see what you do there with those guys. But with that being said, that was the recap of the wild card round of the playoffs. So the first round's in the book. Let's go ahead and get a look at the second round coming up. So with the victories, you have the Voyagers and the Celtic Tigers going at it. That's a week one rematch. Another week one rematch from the ARC side is the other ARC playoff game, Black Knights versus Aviators. That's an amazing game to kick off the season between those two. I believe it was actually a week two match, to be honest. But moving on to the NRC side, Explorers versus Steamers. First time in RFL history these two teams have ever played against each other. So Coach Justin Jones and Coach Bill Nicholson, that's going to be a great matchup there. And the Snowhawks versus the Desperados would be the first time seeing the Desperados in action. The Snowhawks got themselves a big win over the Elks. Tavion Hall going at it. Joseph Gilly, those guys should make for a great game. And from that, the way the times are going to go for these games, the first game will be the Snowhawks versus the Desperados at 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Then it will be the Aviators versus Black Knights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then the Celtic Tigers versus Voyagers at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. And we finish with that rematch we've never seen before. Well, the match we've never seen before in the RFL, the Explorers versus Steamers at 8 p.m. Eastern to close it off on Sunday. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with this first game. What is you guys' predictions and thoughts coming to this matchup for the Snowhawks and Desperados? Who's pulling out on top of that?
Man, that's first. I just wanted to throw this. It wasn't a donation or anything, but I just want to say thanks to Everstar19 for it. Just said that, loves what we do on the channel and that is extremely entertaining and loves our graphics. So thanks for that, man.
Oh, shout out to you. And Nishan for the $10 donation, too.
Yeah, I was just going to say Nishan also did a $10 donation before, too. I think we missed. Man, Rob, I don't know about this one, man. I feel like I want to go Desperados, and I don't feel like it's too much of a stretch to choose them. It's just it's hard to go against the Snowhawks when you know how stacked they are. But I think I'm gonna have to go with the Desperados in this one just because of Tavion Hall and what he can do.
Yeah. An Achilles heel of the Snowhawks. I've watched the Snowhawks an awful lot. An Achilles heel of theirs is the middle of that defensive line, and O'Brien knows it. And if Tavion Hall starts to get the battering ram going on that defensive line, oh man, it might be a show. The other factor of the Desperados is that guy Cecil Austin III. He's been playing some big games as of recent. And the week before, the Snowhawks looked very, very impressive in the secondary. Last week, not so much. We saw some we saw some penalties and everything, down the field. We saw some guys get bagged a bit, and they looked a little bit sloppy. And so they got to be top notch here against these Desperados. I'm gonna actually lean in favor of the Snowhawks because I actually do like the Snowhawks, man. I think I've told you guys that before. That's actually one of my little personal favorite teams here in the RFL. And so I'm going to lean toward the Snowhawks. But, man, I tell you, if Tavion Hall or Cecil Austin, man, if they have a field day, boy, oh, boy, it might be a lopsided score, man. So that's where I'm going.
And I'm going to go with the Desperados in this one. And one guy that I felt that's been left out on the Desperados side is the quarterback of the year for the NRC, Chase Mason. He's been very consistent. Big reason on why he won that award. Very hard to pick off and difficult to rattle. And so, we've seen a lot of guys try to think, Tavion Hall, he's killing this year. They're all about the run. Let's just go ahead and shut down Tavion Hall. More times than not going to be able to do that. And then on top of that, if you do successfully manage to limit him from a 100-yard game on the ground, Chase Mason almost always in those games dots up the defense. And so It's like pick your poison with this offense. The Snowhawks defense has been inconsistent in my opinion. And even in their last matchup against the Elks, as conservative as Eric Fisher was, it was still a close game in which I felt like the Snowhawks, even though they were looking good, just really wasn't putting up the amount of points that I think they're going to need to in a game against this Desperados team. Another area that gets slept on with the Desperados is the defense. This is a defense, a bunch of old heads, nobody talks about them, but this defense really manages game and does not give up a lot of points. So when you look at those aspects, like Rob said, these guys got to pretty much play a perfect game in order to knock off the Desperados. And I just don't see them having that much consistency against this well-rounded team to be able to do that. So I'm going with the Desperados for that reason. I just think that, once again, the run game, I really don't see how they can really stop the run game. They did a great job against Darius Martin, but Tavion Hall is a different breed. He's just a different breed. And in terms of the cornerbacks of the Snowhawks, they've been playing some good football. But like you talked about with Cecil Austin, guys forget about Jamoria Goff. Even Tavion Hall as a receiving option out the backfield. Who's going to cover him as a linebacker? One of the weakest areas for the Snowhawks on the defensive side of the ball is linebacker. So, like, when you think about all these factors, I think it's just too many factors favoring the Desperados side, and they just have too much well-rounded talent. It's kind of like the same with the Dreadnoughts and the Voyagers game. These guys will have to play an incredible game in order to beat them, just like Coach Baker did against a team that really had no flaws. And so that's the 1 p.m. game recap there. Going on to the 8 p.m. game on Saturday, Black Knights versus Aviators. The Aviators were able to win this last time, 35-30. Who you guys got one in there in this rematch?
And I feel that the Aviators are going to take this one. I know they had a couple of, like, a game or two, it seemed like, where they weren't as potent on offense, but I really like what the Aviators have done this year, and Marquise Washington is a very special talent. And as much as I like the Black Knights and I'm cheering on the veteran leadership, I just feel like with that tandem in the backfield of Kingston Kenny, Kadron Lusk, and now you have Marquise Washington there, I just think that they're going to take this one. I don't think it's going to be a crazy, huge, like, blowout win, but I just have a feeling that this is a special year for the Aviators, and I think it's safe to say that they're going to ride at least to the conference championship.
Yeah, this well, it's not a hard one for me, because I genuinely believe that Marquise Washington is something special, and while I still feel that the Aviators, this has been a remarkable season for them. I'm not going to take anything away from them. I still feel there are still some things here that this team, will have to, get together going forward. And I want to believe that Marquise Washington is going to shake off the struggles toward the end of the season here and have a great game against the London Black Knights. Both of these teams have worked very hard to be in this situation, man. It's hard to really say, and I normally just go with the ARC North because I just want the North to be victorious, right? It's difficult though to just say that the Aviators are going to beat the Black Knights, given what the Black Knights have done this season, and so with respect though to Coach Carter, I think that the success of Marquise Washington prior to the end of the season was just phenomenal. He did make some mistakes here and there, but he's played a very great season, and he was among all the rewards sheets and everything, up there at the top, pretty much all season long until the end of the season, when he started to make the mistakes. I think that they got the bye. They've come out fresh. Upgrades have probably been had, and I think the coach back is going to put his best foot forward. And if he does do that, I think that this quarterback, Marquise Washington, is also a quarterback that when we could be talking about as being another face of the franchise type quarterback, and he's dangerous. He's very, very dangerous. He's he's not as wild coyote as Gino has been this season. And I think that actually kind of makes him a little bit more dangerous, given the fact that what we know about the scrambling this year, and such and such. So I'm gonna say that it's gonna be the Aviators, with a strong performance from Marquise Washington. But if not, if it's a poor, if it's 2-3 interceptions, man, you might be seeing an upset here, by the Black Knights.
Yeah, I got the Aviators in this. I think it's going to be a really close game though. The reason why, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Black Knights do pull out on top of this. I really got a very even feel in this matchup that it's going to be extremely close. And the reason why I feel that is because we still, once again, Marquise Washington, like we said, a special talent, but the receiving core is still not the best. Marquise Washington this season has been able to bring out the best in those players with ball placement, and things of that nature is working in their favor against, zones and things like that, and then winning on the obvious man-to-man mismatches. So I honestly feel that this is not that type of defense, though, where you're going to get that type of room. You got Saquon Lattimore out there. You got DeAndre Russell, who they got from the Miners. Those are two solid corners on the outside. I don't think they have the receivers to really beat them man-to-man on the outside. What they're really going to need is the tight end help. And we know that the tight end, he's been liking to strike a lot with, oh boy, I'm forgetting his Keith, he's number 88, blanking on his name. But the tight end that they've had, he's been a favorite target of his that he's liked to strike. And as long as they can have some
Porter?
type of, Keith Porter, yep.
Keith Porter, yeah,
So as long as he's got a weapon like that, to at least get the offense going a little bit, and they got that run game going strong, I think they have a good chance to at least manage the game offensively, but I don't think they'll have the greatest game on the offensive side of the ball against the Black Knights. So that's my only concern of them possibly losing this. I think the Aviators' defense has played outstanding this year, definitely higher than what people expected, a very underrated unit this year on that side of the ball. And the Black Knights, this is an offense that I think has the talent to beat that. That's why I feel like this is going to be a very close game. They have, that veteran leadership in Holden Wolf, who I feel is just going to be dotting up the secondary, because even though they played great, better than expected, they are still, when you look at the players, not the greatest roster-wise. So I do feel like the Black Knights can exploit that. If they do not shut down the run game of Langford Cloud, it's going to get even more dangerous. And so this game is really going to come down, in my opinion, to, once again, the quarterbacks, but more so the defense. Whoever's defense is able to, I think, get the most turnovers. I think that's how this game's going to turn. Whoever can get a turnover of some sort or the most big stops in certain moments, that's who I think is going to determine who's going to pull out on top of this. But I do not think it's going to be an easy in the bag game for the Aviators. Just like it wasn't in week 2. And then you look back at that week 2 matchup when these two teams played each other. Week 2 was back on PS4, and that goes a little bit into this next game that we're about to have with the Celtic Tigers and Voyagers. Both of these teams, they had their first games against each other this season on current gen. Next gen's been a different ball game. These teams have been playing different. And so I think the Black Knights are going to be a lot more feistier and tougher to beat than the Aviators think. So I do got the Aviators here, but once again, I don't think it's going to be easy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Carter and the Black Knights pull out with that. But moving on to that third game that we have at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Celtic Tigers versus Voyagers. Once again, these guys didn't rematch each other, didn't play each other since this season in week 1. And, of course, that was a blowout, 31-10 in favor of the Voyagers to start the season. Of course, the Celtic Tigers have been riding on ever since. But who do you guys got in this rematch?
Man, as much as you guys know, I've been a Baker backer this year with the Voyagers. I just can't go against Dublin, man. I know I was giving you crap for weeks, Smitty, but I had this feeling that, like, for some reason, as soon as the week 17 advances and we're in the postseason, that Dre just turns off his all-pro play, because that's what I've been used to seeing, that it was just done with. But seeing that he got that, chip off his shoulder and was able to still play against such a good team last week with the Cougars, I just feel like they're riding high, man. I'd be stupid to bet against them at this point.
Yeah, man. Didn't Baker beat these Celtic Tigers
Yeah, week
this
2
season?
in current gen.
Week
Yep.
2?
31
Yeah,
to 10
yeah.
was the score.
31-10, man. So I'm gonna go with the coach in this one, man. I think that he's got it. I think he's gonna have it figured out. We got to remember too last year that Baker didn't he beat him last year too? I thought he beat
Not
them.
sure about that. Yeah,
I don't know.
no, he didn't beat them last year. They only
He
lost
didn't beat
one
him.
game last year, and that was to the Black
Yeah.
Knights
Okay.
to the playoffs.
Well, we know about Baker as a head coach, and we know that he probably should have been in this position last season as well, and just falling short. And I think that he's on to something here, and while I don't want to bet against Draco well, because it's just you never know who you're going to get here. I want to believe that I just want to believe that this middle linebacker core, this area of the middle part of the field, is going to be instrumental for taking away passing lanes for Drake Crowell. And I think that, unlike the Cougars, I think that the Voyagers are a little bit more solid over the middle of the field, the short to medium ball when it comes to coverage. And I think that that's going to be, this is like a little bit of a turn up on defense here for Drake Crowell, because now he's going to have to either hope that Trey Worsley is going to be able to try to run this ball, and you got to remember who these Warriors got on defense as well, or he's going to have to try to extend this ball deep to Nayani. And we know that the deep ball is not necessarily the strongest point, of Dre as far as the throw power is concerned, but deadly accurate he has been. So, I think that that this is going to come down to, can the Voyagers take away the middle part of the field and not allow Drake Crowell to set up methodical drives down the field, right? And if they can stop the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives by the Celtic Tigers, then I think that they're going to get this win. I'm going to tip my hat toward the Voyagers. I think that Coach gets it done here in the divisional game.
Okay, so we got, once again, the rematch here. Second time in this rematch, in which it will be in Dublin. Absolutely got embarrassed the first time that they played. Once again, to reiterate the story, lost by 21 points, 31-10. I feel that the Celtic Tigers are going to walk out with this one this time around. And there's a lot of factors that got me believing this. And it's not just because of the great performance in which they just had with the Cougars there. The Voyagers had themselves a great performance as well with the Dreadnoughts. But this is going to also come down to, what Coach Baker himself even said in the chat, Glenn Hay. Glenn Hay, was the same deal that he had to worry about. He had to be pretty much picture perfect in order to succeed against the Dreadnoughts, and he was. This Celtic Tigers defense has struggled. I don't think the Celtic Tigers defense is better than the Dreadnoughts this year, but after the surge in which they did have, I think the flip in a sense has switched. But I do have concerns for the Voyagers here on next gen against the Celtic Tigers defense, which was different, than when they last played. I think it's going to be extremely difficult for them to be able to stop this offense. And I know they have the linebackers, and I think that's going to be an area where they're going to have to step up. These linebackers can't shut down that run game. It's going to be difficult. But what makes it more difficult is the Celtic Tigers, the way in which they've been game planning and just what I've been seeing this year is that they have not really just came out strong running. That the run game, they choose at certain points, not at the beginning of games, but at certain points in the game to really utilize that. And you don't know when that's going to be. So the Voyagers defense, they're going to have to step up in a huge way. And they're going to have to try to find ways to penetrate. Well, we already know for the most part, you really can't penetrate this offensive line. So, if they go blitz heavy or anything of that nature, which I don't think the Voyagers do too much of, then they got themselves possibly a chance to try to make some plays in the passing end of things. The difficult area is, you cannot leave the middle of the field open. CT likes to strike that. But then again, the biggest concern is stopping Matt Nayani. And who do you have to really shut that down? Coach Baker's had, he himself has had questions on, his outside unit at cornerback. But, Carlos Kent has played well. but it's been Reinhardt who's been kind of inconsistent. I'm pretty sure he's going to put Ghent on Ioannis. In this sense, you really have to. But now you have to worry about DJ Burrow. That's very underrated wide receiver. And if I'm not mistaken, they might get their starting tight end back in Damon Mackey. So when you add that factor, even though he's still killing with Hayden Jean-Charles, you get an even better tight end. That's a lot of offense to have to try to guard. And I think that they gave up a lot of passing yards against the Dreadnoughts and some big plays last week. So I do feel that, they kind of have to try to shut one thing off. And I think that the Celtic Tigers can succeed in either way. So for me, I think with the momentum and all those factors, the Celtic Tigers, I got them coming out on top to advance to the ARC Championship game. Moving on to the final game, Explorers versus Steamers. First ever matchup between these guys. Bill, do you want to go first or let Rob go?
I'm actually gonna not even talk on it because everybody knows what I'm gonna say, and yeah, it's so I'll just bow out on this one.
Okay.
Interesting, man. Man, I really hate this, man. Because both of these guys, man. I've come to know, over the years, and I've just seen so much growth, man. I've just seen such an impact out of Coach Nicholson with the Explorers, with bare bones on his team, and he's still thugging it out, winning games. You know what I mean? And the same thing with Jones. I've seen Jones, just the growth, just the growth, man. Just scheming, free agency, and drafting, and putting together a team and turning teams around, man. And it's a hard game, man. It's a hard game to call, man. If you just come out here and just go in the chat and just say the Steamer's gonna win, the Explorer's gonna win, all right, that's cap, man. You know what I mean? Like how can you even call a game like this? Smitty. And I want to just say that I think that that this game, man, is going to come down to one person in this game, man. And I think that's going to come down to the play of Reed Wagner. I would say that, the Steamers defense has been so crazy, and maybe I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna say the modifier. I'm gonna say the play is gonna come down. The game's gonna come down to the play of Reed Wagner, and it's gonna come down to the play of Worrell versus the Steamers defense, because that defensive line, man, jeez, man, you know what I'm saying? These guys are really, really good, and they're really good at getting to the quarterback from all directions. And then they've got some other talent on the defense as well, linebacker core, cornerback, safeties. They're really feisty. If I had to say it, man, this is a home game for the Steamers, and I think that they do have the edge here at home against the Explorers, but not by a tremendous amount. Not by a tremendous margin at all. And I think that if the Steamers don't play to the level to a championship caliber level, like what they did last week, they've got to be better. They've got to put up 30 points to beat the Explorers in this game, because we know the Explorers are coming for them. And so I don't know if the Steamers are ready yet, man, to take on the Explorers. And because of that, and just because of the what we know of the Explorers and how consistent they have been every year that Coach Nicholson has been the coach. And so you can't bet against the Giant. And so I know I took you guys on a roller coaster just now, but I'm going to go ahead and put this in favor of the Explorers. Can the Steamers hold it down, though, and be victorious? I'm going to leave it right there.
Well, I'm going to go with the Columbus Explorers in this one. And I think to me, it was like, I understand these are two great teams, and it's more easier, in my opinion, to make my decision on the Explorers winning this, because going into this matchup, just the way they played last week on the defensive side of the ball, I think this game is going to come down to defense. Whose defense is more primed and ready to shut down the other's offense? And I think hands down, it's the Explorers. The Steamers, they have themselves a good defensive line and thing like that. They have some good, good cornerbacks and stuff like that. Even safeties are pretty decent. But when you match this up, the only way I feel the Explorers could lose this game is if Latavian Worrell gets on a bad run and does not bounce back. That's the only way I really see this happening, or if they really somehow find a way to shut down the run game. Because I think that the Explorers defense is definitely capable enough to shut down this offense, and Reed Wagner's going to find ways to make his plays down the field, get his yardage and things like that. But one thing that has been consistent that I've been seeing from Coach Jones's Steamers is the offense. And even though they played a good game and against the Barons there, the offense was very, up and down and sketchy. They still didn't really run the ball a lot with Myles Karrigan in that last game. That could be an issue for them. It's hard to run the ball, period, against the Explorers, but they need to establish everything in this matchup. Run game, pass game, they need to balance it out. I don't think this team's been consistent enough to balance it out, and the matchup in general is just too great. You got Rashad Chamberlain out there. I think he can X Romeo Jackson off the stat sheet, just like he's done most of every wide receiver this season. You got also Henry Dockett on the other side, and you think about the other wide receiver that's really been putting in damage. It's J.J. Vaughn, and Jake Pride has kind of been, on just an average year. So I think they have the weapons to shut down the passing game, keep that at a minimum. I think the Steamers probably are like I said, going to be inconsistent, not really run the ball like they should. And even if they do run the ball, you're talking about DeMarco Landau in the middle of this defense that's been able to come down and shut down run games. I think the defense is just way more prepared to shut down the Steamers offense than the Steamers are to shut down the Explorers. And what will really take this game off for Columbus is if the run game is as good as it was last week. And if Worrell's on point, in my opinion, I think it's just flat out game over. So I got the Explorers. So with that, that is our takes and predictions on who we think will be advancing this week. And moving on to our next topic, we got a new head coach in Salt Lake City. Here he goes. Look at that smile, man. Gums all out. Max Jackson, he was an defensive coordinator for the Elks, the former coach of the Elks. He stepped down, just really didn't have the time to really put in to remain as a coach here. So Mike O'Neill has stepped down, and the assistant has stepped up. And so Max Jackson currently is the head coach of the Elks, and because he's been working with the organization, he knows about the teams, he's been around and things of that nature, he will be able to participate in a draft and things of that nature. So he's only one-of-a-kind guy right now that's going to be able to do that. So I see people already excited, so let's get that shout out and congrats to Max Jackson. Only 19 years old. He's been extremely excited about the league, just really trying to learn a lot. Remember, he's the one that started up the Relocation and he started doing his own things. And so you could tell he's a dedicated guy for this league, really wants to get in here. He still has to get a PS5, though, but, in case there's some serious things still going on with the PlayStations just being extremely limited, we might be able to really work with him. But, for now, he is the coach of the Salt Lake City Elks. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out. And while we have this up right now of Max Jackson, coach has stepped down. I don't have a graphic for this, because I didn't have a step down graphic, but stepping down from his coaching position is the Monarchs coach, who they've had a really good season this season. Really didn't get to do too much with his team because for guys who didn't know, he was in law school, literally grad school. And while he was doing all that, really just could not be around for the league. And he just came to me and told me, like, look, man, I just don't have the time to be able to really give my best effort to be a coach in this league. And I just told him I appreciate your time in. And, he is going to be stepping down. So the Monarchs are now open on the market once again. And it's good positives, coming out for London. Hopefully this is something that a new team can, a new coach can come on and build up and things of that nature. So what are you guys' thoughts, if you want to say anything about both, but, any of y'all's impressions, on Max Jackson, he's been moved up to front office and things like that. What you guys think about him getting this position?
I think well, obviously I do like the what's the word I'm looking for here? Excitement and sort of passion he's already shown for the league, even though he hasn't been here the longest. And he also obviously has insider in knowledge with the Elks already because he was serving under the last head coach before they stepped down. So I'm excited to see what he can do if he puts the same passion and drive towards coaching that he has sort of taking over, or not taking over, but taking on his own, approach to trying to help us with content like the Relocast and just, having a good head on his shoulders. I think he's going to fare really well. But I have not seen him coach yet, so I'm not really 100% sure where to go with that. But I mean, usually you could just tell that somebody has at least a solid head on their shoulders before they get put into certain positions, and I feel like I've seen that so far. And as for Coach Ciano, it's an unfortunate situation, but life happens, and unfortunately, he I guess it's better for them to realize that this is something that's not just your average run-of-the-mill Madden league, and sometimes you do have to step down because of, in real life situations, and it's good when they do that ahead of time, and rather than drag the team down with them and take that realize that within themselves instead of trying to pretend that it's working. So, congrats for him to be, obviously he's got things going on in his life, so good for him with his law school and stuff, and I hope everything else is good, and who knows, maybe he'll still come through for some games, and maybe he can find his way back once life settles down, so but again, congrats to Max. I think he'll do pretty good. Hopefully he's got a good head on his shoulders when it comes to coaching, because as we know, it's not a simple thing to do.
Yeah, man. I don't really have too many comments, man. I always got jokes and everything, man. I want to see how long it takes him to replace Eric Fisher. And don't trade everything to Mitch. But no, I'm just messing around right now, man. No, he's a cool guy, man. Got to know him as a recent, and I just hope that he's continues to be serious about the league. Coaching, as Bill just told you, is it's not for everybody, and it requires just a kind of it requires a level of dedication, man, that most are just not able to keep up with, and with where we're headed, where we're going, this thing here, you got to be boots to the ground, and so I this is my first time finding out that I don't know if you guys may have mentioned that he may have been thinking about being in Salt Lake City, but obviously he's had an impact on the league, and all you can do is just wish him the best. And so that's that. Yeah, man, it is what it is. That's all I had to say about it.
So congrats to Coach Jackson, head coach of the Elks there, new head coach. So I see guys already excited for him in the chat. One thing that's dropped yesterday, last night, technically almost today. It was almost like midnight my time, Eastern time. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the mock draft that was just released. So this is a draft. This is the graphics of who. This was a 4-man job, really. It was Mitch, head coach of the Snowhawks. You had Coach Forbes, head coach of the Diablos. It was also Jacob Reed, coach of the Diablos, and if I'm not mistaken, Carlton Scruggs himself was also part of this, and they did different things. So they had certain sections on who they thought was going to pick what. So this is once again to put out their opinion. Some people got upset thinking this was official. At the end of the day, guys, I don't know if guys watch football or not to get upset about a mock draft, because with a mock draft, it's not a official. It's never an official thing. A mock draft is what people's opinions are.
Smitty, wait. You mean to tell me that I'm not up here?
What do you mean?
I'm not up here. I quit. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm out, yo. I'm out.
Let's go ahead and play. We didn't play a bell all day, but let's go ahead and play a bell for the guy who dropped out. He cannot get back in this league, bro. I'm saying that right now. I mean, to drop out for that just literally made no sense. But it is what it is, man. We got a whole bunch of people ready for the college series, ready to get drafted, things of that nature. He's just going to have to be on the outside looking in. It is what it is.
Oh, Frankie.
But yeah, so these are the projections, and this order is not correct. This is not the official rankings in which these teams will be picking from. We will be dropping that, of course, later on once everything is finished. But these are who they have. So I'm not going to go through the whole list because that'll take a minute to say the names. But from seeing what you guys see, this is what your thoughts overall. I'm not going to say about each player and each team. But what's your thoughts on this, just looking at this first mock draft, and where players are going based off of these few coaches and things like that?
I'm having a really tough time with this because part of me wants to, say how I really feel, but also part of me being the coach wants to just shut my mouth and say, good job, guys, and move on.
I like the green, man. The highlights is real cool.
Shout out to C. Beazle for making this.
Yeah, I like it. I like that he got the swipe down there at the bottom, and see how the arrows pointing to RFL Draft Network. That's real dope, man. I like how he had the little icons. He got those are the new icons, and they're just real small. And I think that they're just perfectly lined up. And look how Alfred Walker's name is perfectly spaced with the outside linebacker Georgia. And you know what? That is a nice shade of gray. Hey, round of applause. Let me get applause in the chat for Beazle. This is an awesome graphic that you got here. It's really beautiful. I like the new RFL draft logo as well. Oh, is that left justified? Is that left justified? That is really nice, man. I really like how he's got everything centered and lined up.
This is great.
Is this? Is this Loso at the top here? Is that Lito? Is that Lito right there? Oh, he's a ninth rounder for sure. He's he's number one. Well, he's number one. Oh, no, ninth round, guys. Ninth round. It's a ninth round guy right there, guys. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think with trying to be as impartial as I can to not tip my hat or anything like that at all for, my own coaching, stances and whatnot. I'm just going to say that this is a very opinionated mock draft, and there is obviously different opinions amongst others than there will be from other coaches and teams, and but I do really appreciate the time that some individuals took to put this together, and I'm assuming that wherever their placement was, they had solid logical reasoning for it behind them, and they came to those conclusions based off of those, and I like I said, I respect the dedication to put it together. It's a well thought out mock draft.
Yeah, I just used the comedy hour, guys. I had to do that though, you know what I mean? But yeah, I feel the same way that Bill feels as well. Being all the way real, no trolling. The guys don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted. Now these guys look at stats. They're like statisticians, and they really dive deep. And this is who they think is who, and it's also a little bit probably based off, a little bit of politics in here as well. Some of these guys, there's things here. We got a reload program and some other things going on here. But me personally, I tend to not follow these mock drafts because they are opinionated, right? And you don't know what a coach is thinking or what a coach may want. And, while it makes sense, it does make sense. Like, I'm just going to keep it honest. It makes sense for the Cougars to take Chris Polk at number 20. It makes sense. It's rational, right? Because we do want another safety to help out Markel Wilcox. You just don't know who's going to be there at 20, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't feel any kind of way about this. Do I think there are some guys here who deserve to be higher from what I'm seeing right here? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's some guys that need to be higher here. Wasn't really expecting. I'm going to stop right there. All right, go ahead, Spitty.
Yeah, so from looking at this list, for one, since the draft order was off for one, and we just didn't have anything at that time, they just put a mock draft out there. I don't have no problem with the mock draft, and I understand some people could say, oh, this could possibly persuade, people's mindsets or something like that. I feel like if you're a coach and you're looking at this mock draft and really just going based off of this, then you're going to have a horrible draft, because what you predict compared to what they have here, we already know. Even last year with the mock draft, it did not turn anything out. If I'm not mistaken, there was probably only one or two of the first round that was actually correct. And for the most part, those were picks that we just knew for a fact that the person, that team was going to get early on. But I think this is, still a great thing for the community, for guys to look at, just get people's opinions and stuff like that, just to build hype for the draft. I think it's a great thing, but I also feel like people just need to stop taking things so serious to the point where, that they feel like this is, the real deal or what they think. I mean, maybe some coaches involved, that may be what they think, but there's CPU teams still involved with no coaches that I have to draft for that needs certain positions that these guys, just can't even equate for because they don't know who I'm going to take. So, it's great to have these out, and it makes sense. I still don't understand how anybody could get offended by looking at a mock draft. Once again, I just still want to put that out there. A mock draft is a mock draft. If anybody gets offended of a mock draft, and especially get to the point where they leave, we do not want you back, sir. So you go ahead, stay where you're at. We're good with what we got. So that, it is what it is, man. But a mock draft is a mock draft. This is not official. How is this going to be real? And we haven't even had the draft yet. I just don't get how anybody could take it that serious. But so that's pretty much all we wanted to say about this out here with the draft. Just looking at it, and you guys seen it, and maybe you guys can ask some questions or something in the free time if we really have that. But so that's it. You can see this on social media. As you can see the at the bottom, we got another account that handles this stuff, just putting this stuff out there to build draft hypes, the RFL Draft Network on Instagram. So go ahead, give them a follow. I see they've been building up, putting out some nice content for you guys, and, giving their, personal rankings and stuff like that. Once again, not a bad thing. Just don't believe that that's accurate. It's opinionated, just like it is in the NFL. But with that being said, we'll move on to the final segment, and that is the fun facts with Pat to close it out. So, Bill, might as well get ready to go ahead and make these payments.
Real quick though, man. Can we just appreciate that this person who remains unnamed literally put 1 or 2 messages in, had no context behind anything, and just went AWOL off the wall and left without any context or behind the back. So
I've already blocked him, so there's no way he's going to be able to get in contact with me.
I was just sitting here thinking, I saw the whole Discord, and I'm looking for this huge argument. I'm looking for messages upon messages of almost like the previous incident we had with said person. Yeah. And I see one message, and then it just says bot logs, so and so left. I'm like, he's not even gonna give us anybody a chance to explain.
It is what it is. I mean, if you really took it to heart like that, he needs to go.
I just thought that was hilarious, man. I was just like, wow, he really just said, I'm gone, I'm done.
Not gonna lie though, man. I gotta go ahead and give my boy Mitch an applause though, and get some applause in the chat, because if I would have known that it would take one mock draft to get that guy off my radar, oh boy, we got to start doing the mock draft in January, December, November, so we can get all these problem makers out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? We
really don't have many. We don't have many at all. I mean, that was, if anything, that was probably the last one. It wasn't really too much. He was just, I don't know. I can't explain it. Just
mock drafts. Mock draft lives matter, man. Jeez,
yeah. So everyone knows about the RFL community in the Discord. Everything's civil. And a good thing he didn't, just go off on a tangent. He just left out of there. So I'll give him an applaud for that. Just left out there quiet, didn't cause any scenes, and it is what it is. But don't be trying to contact anybody, talk about trying to get back in, because we know just about everybody who's done that always does that. But let's go ahead and do this fun facts with Pat. So first question: only 6 quarterbacks have won the RFL MVP award. Which RFL MVP winner has the most playoff victories? And these should be, Pat said he tried to make these more easier for guys to be able to take, to be able to answer. At least be able to guess.
Oh, wait, Pat had the SAT questions, man.
Yeah. Like, you had to be here since day one to know type.
Hey, this a little GED right here, man. It's a little GED level, right here, y'all. PSL. What was it? What's the other one? The ACT. This ACT right here. You only got to get 17, boys. That's all you got to get.
We have guesses of Dre Crowell, Latavian Worrell, Jabri Jackson.
Nope.
Nope. Brady Hudson.
Mm-mm.
Bro, Beazle, it don't matter how many times you say that name in a comment, it's not gonna make it sound cool.
Beazle the Diesel.
Diesel. It don't
Beazle
make
the
it work.
Diesel the Beazle.
All right, so
Beazle-
Savoy.
the time is up.
Savoy, Wolf, and Mackey was all in as the timer went off.
No, sir. So the
Wow.
answer is, let me get to the top here before I take off the wrong thing. LC3, the Thunderbirds, season 4 MVP. He was
Nice.
5-2 in the playoffs and start. So what I'm going to do
Nice,
is each of these questions will be worth 500 for Pat if no one gets it, and then 250 if they do get it. So he'll get 500 for that. Next question. Moving on here. The ARC beat the NRC 28-21 in last year's Pro Bowl. Who had the only defensive touchdown in the season 5 Pro Bowl? I'll start the time.
Did Parker Thomas throw the only touchdown? Oh,
Only
defensive
yeah,
touchdown.
defensive touchdown.
Oh, that was
Oh, you can answer.
Hold on, that was. Oh,
Okay, so
bro,
we
it's
had-
right there, bro.
We had we have Anthony Washington and then we have Woolfolk.
Nope.
Ooh.
No. It was a cornerback, wasn't it? Was it a cornerback, guys? Pat, was it a cornerback?
Guesses.
It was a.
Yeah,
it was a.
Rob, the whole point is so that they can guess.
Oh, my bad, fellas. Sorry, I'm cheating, man. Cheating, man. Dang.
Rob's like, I want some reloads. We haven't heard
Yeah,
nothing else yet.
that was
And clock
I
hits
can't-
0. I stopped it before so you don't hear the noise. But it was not a
CP said-
cornerback.
CB said Kilo.
It was Edmund Whiting, Oklahoma City.
Oh,
Bison.
nobody guessing him.
Wow,
And
nobody
this says
guessing
the
him.
Pro
Sorry.
Bowl, not
Why
Senior
did,
Bowl.
why did I think it was a DB?
You probably were thinking about the College Series Bowl.
Oh,
This was the Pro
okay.
Bowl. Yeah, in last year's joint.
Dang.
Yeah, so there goes another 500 for Pat, so he gets his stack. And moving on to the next one. The Sacramento Miners were once the Mexico City Conquistadors. Who did the Conquistadors beat in their final RFL game before moving to Sacramento? And I'll start. I'll start now.
Lewis says Voyagers.
Nope.
McCall says Bulldogs.
Nope.
Well, I know this is wrong, McCall, because it'd be pretty hard for the Conquistadors to play the Condors.
Red Dragons?
Bisons.
Nope.
Sheesh. Black Knights.
Nope.
Y'all are running out of teams. Somebody's got to get this.
Well, it's 15 other teams.
Sentinels.
Nope.
Well, you know I want the Cougars. Oh
Bulls.
man.
Nope.
CT.
Mm-mm.
Elks. Dreadnoughts.
And that's it. The
Black
answer
Knights.
is the
Pioneers.
Dreadnoughts. So he beat the
Oh,
Dreadnoughts
good.
week 16. Conquistadors won that game 33-14. So 1,500 reloads for Pat. See
Well,
if you
no.
can get 2 stacks.
Somebody said that. I just said that.
Yeah, you just said Dread. I don't see it here. Like, it was after the.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. While you were guessing extra, the time was already over.
I wasn't guessing. This is from the chat.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I was looking at the chat too from here. It wasn't up there yet. Like you were reading them after the time stopped.
Sheesh. I
But we
don't know
said
about that,
Dreadnoughts.
man.
Cardenas said Dreadnoughts in the chat
Yeah.
before you had mentioned it.
Oh, I thought she was looking at
Luis Cardenas.
what's it called? CP.
Ah.
Let me see. Okay, what we can do, we can give them both 500. How about that? So Cardenas, I guess the first one to say it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll give him 500 and 500 for CP. Oh, except CP. I mean, Pat. All right, and the last one, it says, question courtesy of Mitch. In season 6, which college produced the most RFL starting quarterbacks? You do not have to name all of them. You just got to name the college from the college series, and the timer will start now.
Okay, so we got LSU.
Nope.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Nope.
Ohio State.
Mm-mm.
Georgia.
Mm-mm.
Oklahoma State.
Mm-mm.
Florida. LSU. Houston.
Mm-mm.
USC.
Nope.
Texas.
Nope. 20
Clemson.
seconds. Nope.
Florida State.
Mm-mm.
Alabama.
Nope.
Miami.
Nope. 10
Syracuse.
seconds.
Washington. Oregon.
Nope.
UNCC. UCLA. Minnesota. Texas A&M. Oregon. Florida West Coast. Texas State. Boise State.
And that's it.
UCLA. I'm trying to make sure that Smitty listens to your answers this time. So
Yeah, so that's it right there for sure. And it's Oklahoma. Chumlee, Joseph Gidley, Aaron Pritchett, Tyler Agamonte, and Tyler Miller. He did get to start this season, so he got thrown in there. So Oklahoma.
what is it, Frankie? Who is Florida West Coast? Is that even a real college?
Ain't a D1.
No way.
Florida West Coast, I'm pretty sure it's probably a real college. It's not a D1A college, though. Yeah, so that's it for the questions. And I guess Pat gets another 500 there. So he's going to end the night off with 2 stacks. And now it's open questions to the community here. Got about 11 minutes because we usually close at the 2-hour mark. And it's 10:19, well, 10:20 now. So 10 minutes of open question. So guys got anything for us to answer live? Go ahead, drop it in the chat now.
Okay, first question. What teams do you expect to be in the playoffs next year that didn't make it this year? And that's from Charlie Miller.
I feel like the teams that we kind of expected this year to make it would be like Thunderbirds, probably even the Huskies.
Yeah.
Teams like that.
Dare we say the Monarchs?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Good. Would you think the Monarchs?
Man, if they have a solid they did such a big improvement from last year, even with not a very good offseason, just because of obviously what happened with the one coach.
Mm-hmm.
If they can have a solid offseason, and if Schrader continues to do what he was doing, I don't see why not.
Gotcha.
Rob Lewis wants to know if you ever went through that idea he gave you.
Oh, Cardenas! Oh, great way to corner me, Cardenas, on the podcast.
Dang. Yeah, he picked a good time.
Let me get a spy. Let me get a spy emoji or something, man. Something. Gotta force my hand, man.
My bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Louis.
If it's something that's too debatable, though, then
no,
it's do
not.
that later. Okay.
Well, it might be slightly debatable for you, Smitty, but I don't think it's. I think so.
Okay.
He wants to know whether or not, if I recall, he wants to know if we can choose if the community, if there's a form that could be made, which Baker probably could do, if the community could vote on the community player that you usually submit each year.
No.
What? There. Well, rest in peace. Sorry.
Yeah, we definitely want to get away from those because we already know, like, if it's a community situation, it's like a rare situation. Like Daryl Johnson wouldn't have been here if he wasn't something that was from something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was only created because he was a part of Kerblam King series, and it was only a good storyline to go with. Geno Gannon and Marquise Washington was created from Madden, really, from the series they had there. And then, of course, Devin Wade and Colt Cruz, all the community guys that were built off a storyline. So there's nothing like even there, like, and the only one that wasn't built off a storyline that really the community built together was DeAndre Wilkins Jr. And that was because it was the first time we really tried to introduce college into the RFL. So we do not create OP players unless it's something that's like that type of storyline to be thrown into it. So that's something that, like, say if the next Madden story is really great, I honestly wouldn't still go with it though if it means another quarterback, because we don't need no more quarterbacks. Only if it's something that makes sense. But outside of that, no, we're not making community guys.
Sorry, Luis.
Chris Williams, will prospect submissions ever open back up? Well, we literally just closed them.
Yeah, we closed them week 17 when the season ended.
Yeah.
See James talk about not Jacob Reed making them not OP. What it is they got a higher opportunity to be great, but they come out OP because they perform, even though they're put in a position to do that. But that doesn't always mean that they will be. It's just that every guy that was created turned out to be great. So that's how it turned out. As for the what did you just say again, Bill?
What? Chris Williams said will prospect submissions ever open back up?
That's what I wanted to talk more on. For weeks, there's a possibility it could be open up during the season based off of dropouts and certain things like that. But right now it's closed until that time comes up. But we still have to discuss that as a front office just to talk more on how we would handle that. But it's in the works of possibly reopening that again based off dropouts.
Okay. Pat, okay, what are the odds that in season 7 we get 32 teams in one file?
That's up to EA.
Yeah, I mean, we say it every year. We don't know if they're gonna pull that trigger or not.
I hope. I got more optimism this year than before, simply because they said they're working on doing more with the reload teams.
They did, yes,
so that's
they
the
did
only
say that.
reason I got that.
And they have not mentioned that. I don't think they've ever really mentioned that ever.
Yeah, never. So
because that was just
faith.
always a part of the game, and then when they took it out, people were asking for it, but they never mentioned it. And this is the first year that they actually mentioned revamping the customization into the game. So it very well could happen.
If that happens, bro, the RFL is going to be beyond lit.
Oh man, yeah. No more free wins.
Yeah,
no, yeah.
It's going to help us with a lot of the manual work we got to do from cross conference.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to be dope, man.
McCall, you're not right.
What happened?
He said, "Are you blessed?"
Are you blessed?
Yeah.
I would hope we all are.
You get
beautiful
that?
souls.
Oh,
there we go. There we go.
I almost want to ban that. I almost want to just leave that out the community as a whole, period.
Let me get beautiful souls in the chat trolling Smitty right now. You beautiful souls. I'm not in the top 32.
I'm gone.
Quit. I'm out of here.
I still don't get how you can go an entire college series experience.
You got a new Tecmo Bowl league over there on
play
Twitch.
a
I'm
whole
about to go
season,
sign up,
bro, and then still like drop out off of opinionated mock draft, bro. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna go be a part of one of these Madden 12 leagues. This is it. I'm done.
Yeah, it is what it is, man.
QPOC, what do you guys expect the Wizards to take first in the draft? So basically, just a team needs question, I guess. I don't know if do you guys have any? You guys want to?
I'm not saying anything.
Rob, you got any thoughts on that or no?
What was the question?
Who do you expect the Wizards to take first in the draft? Like which player?
Not Lito Loso. He a whole ninth rounder. But why would you put Lito Loso at the top of the list? I don't understand these guys, these mock drafts, man. No, in all honesty though, man. If I had to say, you guys are Smitty. Can I say what I said?
Yeah, you can.
To you?
Yeah,
I'll just tell you what I said. I don't think that Lito Loso is going to be the franchise player for the Wizards. The Wizards need Lito Loso is an excellent cornerback. He's going to be awesome, but he's not going to save the Wizards. The Wizards need a quarterback, in my opinion. The Wizards need to take Daryl Johnson. That's why I feel. Depth.
And
Stamp.
that's actually the exact same sentiment I have. And
Yeah.
like Rob said, that's nothing against Lito at all.
Yeah, Lito's awesome.
It's-
Lito's gonna be an all-star Pro Bowler. He's gonna be awesome. He's just not. Don't sign him to the Wizards and watch his career melt away because Tyler Ergamani's out here, playing. Never mind. Let me stop, man. I hate to see it. I just hate to see it.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like. Nah, I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna stop there.
Amir wants to know Relo Bowl predictions.
Real Bowl predictions. If I had to think on who I think would come out on top of the ARC and NRC, I got a feeling the Celtic Tigers are finally going to put it all together to get there once again, which they haven't done since season 1. And then for the NRC, man, it's between the Explorers and Desperados for me. Man, that's hard.
I'm gonna tell you right now. If I get to see them again, I'm not making the same mistake I made last time. And I don't know if they're going to get 2 games in a row like that. So, just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'm stuck on it. I can't really say. I think it's going to be Celtic
You're
Tigers.
not stuck on it. You're going to take the Desperados. Just say it.
No, I mean, I really honestly don't know. I'm being honest.
And I can't really answer that because I'm biased. You already know half of it.
Oh,
Who would you take from the
circle
ARC
back for a
side?
second? Oh, never mind.
What's up?
Who would you take on the
I don't know.
ARC side, though, other than yourself?
Oh. I really feel I'm having a tough time right now because part of me wants to say that there's a reason the Aviators are the number 1 seed, but the other part of me can't get over the whoever gets out of alive of the Voyagers and Celtic Tigers game.
Yeah. What were you going to circle back to, though, Rob? You can go ahead.
Can I get a bell for Razier, man? He said Loso can play every position. He can play quarterback, huh?
He probably joking.
'Cause clearly-
Get him.
Oh, he joking. Oh, my bad.
I'm pretty
My
sure
bad,
he's
Razier.
joking, but
Please put LOL, man, because I get a little bit antsy when I see craziness in the chat, man. Look, I like Lito Loso a lot. Y'all know I think Lito Loso is awesome. He could go second. He just can't go 1 for the Wizards, guys. Come on, man. He's not enough interceptions in the world is gonna save the Wizards. Come on, man.
This
What are
is
y'all
one thing
doing?
I will say about this too, man. I feel like I could speak out about a team. I'm not going to speak specifically about a player, but I mean, when you talk about positions for this team, the defense is what kept Wizards in games this year.
Yep.
So to go defense, in my opinion, would make no sense at all. So that's just my opinion. I know there might be aging and things like that. I know their corners are older and things like that, but with the talent in this draft, I mean, it's more defensive heavy. And so since it's defensive heavy, you're going to have a lot more chances to probably get a defensive player than you would an offensive player early on. And if you got the first pick and you need an offensive player, you should probably go offense. Like, especially when you got the entire draft at your disposal to pick from. So, I mean, that's just my opinion.
Frankie's like Mick's trying to get him away from the Wizards. Listen, got my philosophy. I'm gonna stop here, Spinny. I promise. I'm gonna stop here. My philosophy, guys, in the first round, and this is not everybody's philosophy. When you got the first through 5 picks, and I'll say 10, but I think 10, but I'm gonna say 5. When you got the first 5 picks and you got the chance of getting a player, you go with a player that's going to change and impact your team for the future. Like, you go with that guy. You go with the guy who's a game changer. It doesn't matter that Lito Loso is a beast and he's gonna up your defense and make it swaggy. If you got a quarterback if you got a quarterback on your team and he's not performing the way you want him to perform, and you got the chance to get a future guy like Geno Gannon, like Marquise Washington, Jabri Jackson, LC3, all these guys, then you go with the franchise quarterback. You got it. You got to go with the quarterback. Am I nuts here or what?
I mean, I'm not going to say anything about, but my own spill is
100% accurate.
Yeah, I just really don't feel like based
pretty
off
decent
of what's in this draft, bro. Like,
Now, if this was the Agramonte we saw last year when he was actually playing rather well, I don't know if I still might think they should take the future, because let's not forget that he's also 29. He's not exactly a spring chicken anymore, if I will. And
then one thing I want to say also, not to cut you off, but like I really got to make this point is, like, you understand, like, since we're cutting down on drafts, like, there's probably going to be a slim to zero chance that we ever get a quarterback of the magnitude of Daryl Johnson. You get what I'm saying? So like I guess I could get everyone already knows this point about Daryl Johnson. So I guess there's no point of really keeping this a secret. Everyone knows who should be the best quarterback in this draft. So I can say, I mean, it's there. I can at least give you guys that. But with that being said, what is the odds of something like that ever being there again? So you might go with Tyler Agramonte, but he might end up panning out well for you. But that's what 2-3 years. So
Yep.
I mean, would you rather take that or a guy literally coming in young that you can build double digits in years with? So and there's other options out there too that they can attack. But it's about what's more important for the team. I'm not going to speak too much more into depth. At the end of the day, coach going to draft who they're going to draft. I'm not going to make a decision based off of, what they did. They just better make sure that it pans out and it makes sense and it works. That's all I can say about it.
Don't listen to Frankie, guys. He likes to play with 76 overalls. Don't listen to him at all. And he's probably scheming to trade up for DJ. That's why he's telling the Wizards to take Loso.
Yeah.
Let me stop.
And then Eric Strotter wants to know if the Senior Bowl and Pro Bowl will be modded like last year or not.
So the Pro Bowl and the Reload Bowl, just to exclude the college series for now, will unfortunately have to be played without modding. And the reason why is because there's no Madden 21 mod, and we do not want to go back to 20 to be able to play that. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, we're not doing that because it regresses where the league has been played at all season long. And then for the College Series Bowl, though, that will be modded and back on Madden 20. So, yeah, that's something that's in the works right now. Beasel's already got working on the uniforms and everything. Of course, we'll be dropping that in due time. So that's the only area this season that will be modded. The rest will be within the game.
All right, and then the next question is aimed towards me, but I know what the point of it is, and I don't even think this is going to start nothing, because I think, Smitty, you and me have already come to an understanding and agreement on this. Is offense or defense more important? And I'm still standing by my defense is I think is the more important aspect of a game.
I still don't agree with the important part of it.
No.
I don't think it's important.
You already said you agreed.
I said I agreed to the point that, you could say defense wins championships and things like that. I could agree to that slogan or whatever, but that really, you still know that you need something from your offense. So because you need that, if the defense was really that important, then no matter what your offense play like, if you had the best defense, you're going to win. And I don't agree with that. And I think you agreed with me that you need some form of offense to sustain in order for you to even be successful with a great defense.
I'm not saying that that's not true either. It's just, I just feel that you can get by with a ho-hum offense more so than you can a terrible defense. That's just what I think. But I mean, I don't really get into it anymore, because we've had these battles like on and on and on and on. And
yeah.
So,
but my last part to say about it is, like, once again, it depends on the verity of like how good they are compared to the other team. You get what I'm saying? Because you could sit there, it could go both ways. So that's why I said, so because of that, that's why I say that it's the importance part of it. That's why I debated it, is because for saying it's more important because of that. I just can't agree with that.
Okay, so Jakari, I have a good question. What players do you think will have most success being drafted for everyone?
Is that a little more of a loaded question?
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if he's asking like about multiple teams, or if he's just asking like out of every player who's going to be the best one no matter what.
Well, I can't speak on that, and I think it's just too many guys in this to be able to try to break that down right now at the moment. Let's take 2-3 more questions, man, based off how good they
are. Chrome, how is the free agency process going to work?
It's a lot.
Not really. It's pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah. Well, for one, because of all the stuff going on, we're gonna have a no touch thing going on with coaches. since the contracts over time kind of got messed up from Madden, since we had to build our players over what was there. So so first things first is the coaches will have a no-touch list to be able to save players or cut certain players that was signed by the CPU, and then they'll have a certain time to do that. And then once that's all done, it'll pretty much be exactly like what you get in Madden, where you get to pick from it in free agency, but you have a day to place a bid on a player. And if a coach wants that same player, you can outbid them, but you only can get a max of, this year it's going to be 120 instead of 150 that you could put down on a player. So like once you max out at 120 that you're putting down on that player, and another coach is trying to outbid you, and you guys both put 120, it's up to the player in the game to decide which team he'd rather play for. So that'll be the tiebreaker. And that's pretty much how the free agency works.
And then I think I don't know if you mentioned this. I know I don't think you did, but we got a $5 donation from Chris Williams, and he says, Chris Flash Williams, wide receiver from Auburn, will be a steal in the draft, says insiders. I don't know what those insiders are, man. I'm just playing.
And shout out to you, though, for the donation, my guy, as always. Very supportive community member. See him in the Discord and everything, interacting. So still appreciate that. Okay, we can take one more question. Or was that the first one? Yeah, that was the first one. So we can take two more.
I'm looking. Louis Cardenas, is it East versus West for the Senior Bowl? Yes.
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking about, we're going to do it this year, still East versus West, the same thing as last year. But I am thinking about changing up to see if we could possibly come up with a better name than the directions, because if this was going off of regional areas, you would have only certain teams to choose from. But this is actually more of a fantasy draft type thing with the college players that the coaches who are selected to coach those teams will pick from. So, you can be on Miami, which we know we got a lot of players there, but you could play for either team based off of the coach chooses you. So going with the regional thing, I don't think makes sense. We'll have to try to find something other than that. But just for this year, we're just going to still keep with the East and West.
No, I'm sure that this is I don't know, maybe a joke or something, but I would love to hear, Rozier, how you possibly think that you listened to anything I said and that's why you got fired. So,
boy.
yeah, you should really just accept your responsibilities, man. I don't know what
Wisconsin Gate coming up.
Yeah, I don't really know what your angle is here, but it's probably really off base. So you might want to just drop it.
Yeah. So let's see. We got one more question we're gonna take here, and we're gonna close out on you guys. You haven't already.
Oh, this is about justice. Oh my God, I'm not even gonna touch that. I told you when you drafted him that was a stupid move. Sorry, I'm not gonna even hold back, man. I said that live on the draft. You can go back and watch it in the draft. I said that's dumb. So I'm sorry, man. I never told you to draft that guy.
Hey, Bill just hit him with the Triple H pedigree just now, man.
I
am the game.
You guys could. It's recorded here on YouTube, man. Go back and check the tape.
Yikes.
So just get the best question you can see, man.
I'm looking. Okay, so that's sort of already answered most of that.
I got daggone a whole highlight reel of Triple H pedigrees going in my head now.
I am the game.
It's all about the game. Now you playing. I'm imaging him on it.
I'm not really seeing much else outside of just related questions about the Senior Bowl. Okay. Asking about Senior Bowl rosters. Did you touch on that yet?
Yeah, that's we can finish with that. So the College Series Bowl will be picked off of there'll be coach. I can't remember off the top of my head how I choose the coaches for that, but it'll be the same exact system it was last year. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's probably coaches of the year, like the best two coaches or something, because it was Baker and Rummel who did it last time. I remember that, and they and the runner-ups of the Relocation Bowl was guys who were going to be coaching in the Pro Bowl. So yeah, that's how that worked. So those coaches, whoever selected for that, will choose back and forth to fill up their roster for the College Series Bowl. And since we already have the roster and stuff done, all we have to do is import the mod to where we just change the uniforms and just make a separate roster file where this is just the College Series Bowl roster, and we just move those guys on that team, and then that's it. So yeah, that's it here for us, guys. Appreciate you guys coming through the podcast. Hey, couple of days with no RFL action. I know you guys are waiting, but at least this is giving me time to work more on some things to make sure we're prepared for the draft and stuff like that. But until Saturday and those 2-day breaks, man, we'll see you guys then. Me and Rob will be calling that game once again just to show that. We'll be calling all the games from here on out. First game, Snowhawks versus Desperados, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and the Black Knights versus Aviators at 8. So until then, it's your boy Smitty, RFL Commissioner, play-by-play commentator, along with Bill and Rob, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.